This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome, everybody, to the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, September 14th, 2025. You'll notice my voice sounds a little bit different. My mic broke in my studio, so I'm on my laptop mic, but for what it's worth, it doesn't sound too bad on my MacBook here, so hopefully it's not too big of a downgrade for you, but we'll get to everything here tonight. There's a lot to cover here, as WrestlePalooza is this coming Saturday, and then we get into the meat of wrestling season as Survivor Series ramps up, Royal Rumble begins to peek its head in, and then WrestleMania season will be here before you know it, as it's not too far away. I mean, it's mid-September, football's rolling, the MLB postseason is about to get underway in just a few weeks. It is a hell of a time of year, and if none of that interests you, well, you certainly have other things going on in the country that will keep your attention, and I'll leave it there for that. But if you're interested in hearing about all those things, the other things going on in the country that we all know what that is, head over to my other show. It's called The War on Truth. You can find it anywhere that podcasts are available. So I'll leave it there. And if you guys want to join us over at the Patreon side of things, good time to do it because it's a PLE week. And with that, you can get an ad-free experience, a week for free, Discord server to chat with all the other patrons, and much more. So let me start with a element that was not part of the Raw or SmackDown televised event this week, and that is Saudi Arabia. Boy, are people pissed. Hey, WWE, if you didn't know, has announced that they are going to be hosting, or rather, they have chosen a hosting city for WrestleMania 43 in none other than the beloved Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, during Riyadh season. I'll pause for effect. I'll pause for your cheers. And there are a lot of people unhappy with this. Probably none more than the actual wrestlers themselves, which if you saw them in the press conference that was done with I don't know his name, the prime minister, whatever the equivalent of a president or prime minister is of Saudi Arabia. I don't know his name, but he was there writing WWE their gigantic check that they give out to WWE. I mean, they are single-handedly affecting the bottom line of WWE on a quarterly basis on their financials more than any other entity. I mean, by a long shot. The amount of money that Saudi Arabia is pouring into WWE is just absurd. And the announcement that was made, you could see Undertaker, who looks 100 years old now, behind Triple H. You had Bianca Belair there. You had Charlotte there. You had even Liv Morgan, I believe, there. Boy, if you could just be able to vocalize what their thoughts were and give them truth serum. I mean, if looks could kill, take a look at the expression, especially on Charlotte's face. She barely wanted to clap. It's embarrassing. I'm sure they're not happy to be there. They're doing what the company's telling them to do. And they had an overrepresentation of women at the conference simply because they're trying to overcome the stigma that, Riyadh is still way behind in women's rights. I mean, I think women only got the right to drive not too long ago. And we just had the first outdoor competitive women's wrestling match of all time in the country just a few years ago. I mean, again, I don't know how that's something that we're supposed to be proud of. It should be something that the country is ashamed of. I know WWE gets a big fat check from them. I understand that. And I'll be the first to defend WWE for trying to make money. But they can't be surprised when the fans are insanely outraged. What I think the company's doing, though, is fairly simple. It's a fairly simple strategy. They know that the North American wrestling fan base is not going to be particularly excited about this. They know there's going to be blowback, and there was. Everything from the number of dislikes on their YouTube, announcement, to the chat that was going on during the announcement, to the comments. I mean, go down the list. There's been a massive amount of blowback, but how could they not expect that? And it is a bit of a slap in the face to North American fans, although you could say, oh, well, we get it every year. Yeah, well, we are the ones where it started. I mean, we are the ones that invest in this every year, and I hope nobody from North America goes to Riyadh. I want to send WWE, and hopefully you guys do too. If you are listening and the sound of my voice, don't spend a stupid amount of money to go to Riyadh to do what? I mean, what are you doing there? I know they're going to try to sell the city as, oh, it's a progressive place. Look how beautiful it is and all the rest. Hey, I'll say, do your homework on the place, okay? Not that your safety is in jeopardy, but if your beliefs and everything else don't align with theirs, then you may have an issue. If that is something that bothers you, just do your homework on it. It's easy. It's an easily Googleable piece of information that you could get to make that decision. But WWE is going to truck through this. And you know why they're going to truck through this, all the blowback? Because in their minds, they have above all else, above everything else, more than fans, more than the reaction on social media, they prioritize money and maximizing income over everything else. They don't give a damn. Was it Mark Shapiro? I keep thinking, is it Mark Shapiro who's the president? I can't ever get his name right. He's the one that just said, hey, I don't care what Vince McMahon does. If Vince McMahon was pricing for families, I'm pricing to make the most money. I mean, this guy, look, I understand that that's what you're kind of supposed to do, but at the same time, you don't say that out loud. Why? Well, because families are the lifeblood of your company. Sure, you have sponsors that actually give more dollar value than the actual fans do, including merch, including PLE subscriptions and viewership and all the rest, and merch. But the fans are the ones that actually dictate how much the sponsors offer the company to advertise on their airspace, because the fans are the ones that have an effect on ratings, which is used primarily in negotiating with sponsors. So if we stop watching their product, sponsorship offers go down, and therefore their total dollar value, income goes down. Their net revenue goes down. So we do have an effect. It's just kind of a downstream effect, and they are all be damned, but how much we can make. That seems to be the case. And look, you can say what you want about Vince McMahon. He say he's Satan himself, but the man actually seemed to care about families, seemed to care about trying to make a product, although he didn't do a great job at times, make a product that was somewhat respectful to wrestling. He didn't advertise all over the canvas, outwardly say, I don't care about the families, I'm just going to charge as much as we can, that the consumer will buy. He at least had some kind of soul when it came to wrestling and making sure that, the sanctity of professional wrestling, even if he wanted to call it sports entertainment, was still in existence. This TKO version of WWE is very different, and it continues to evolve into just kind of dare I say, just a business. And I know that's kind of just what it's been all along, but there's a soul to pro wrestling. There's a soul to it that at least Vince McMahon did embody. And he is primarily responsible for professional wrestling being as successful as it is today across the world. And TKO has kind of been a soul taker. It has just completely shattered what I think the WWE used to be and what it used to mean. And I know, you can't remain the same. You have to evolve. But here's the thing. Progress or evolution for evolution's sake is not inherently a good thing, right? And you may say, what are you talking about? Progress is always, is always a positive thing. Well, no. I mean, it depends on the context that you're using it in, because, of course, you could say cancer is progressive, right? So TKO, in the way that cancer is progressive, is taking the soul out of WWE. I really believe that. That doesn't mean WWE is going to be not successful. It doesn't mean that the company is going to be bankrupt in a year, but they are certainly prioritizing money over every and anything, just bar none. And TKO didn't they? I think they had some bankruptcy issues. And so while WWE themselves isn't going bankrupt, the TKO umbrella, with WWE being an arm of that company, they're trying to maximize how much they're squeezing out every dollar they can out of the WWE. Of course, they have UFC and other ventures. But with WWE, look what they've done. Look what they've done. Prioritizing their streaming with Netflix and now ESPN. The advertising all over the ring canvas, which is a travesty. Like I said, the tables are sponsored by Slim Jim, and I mean, it's insane. It's insane. It's getting to the point where if you thought at times the WWE version of under Vince McMahon felt a little bit kind of sleazy, this version of TKO's WWE feels more corporate than Vince McMahon's ever did, despite the fact that they have Triple H as a face of it, who we all respect. I would think we all respect Triple H, especially for his accomplishments in the ring and everything he's done for the company. But he's being used as the face, and I would love to have a real candid truth serum conversation with Paul Levesque, because there are times when I feel like he has to choke things out where he doesn't really believe what he has to say, but he knows he has to say it because he's just a face of the company. And so anyway, I'm getting a very corporate feel under this TKO management of WWE than I ever did with Vince McMahon. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some good things with this version of TKO's WWE. There certainly are some good things. The shakeup of creative initially was very refreshing. The less controlled promos that are clearly coming across on TV are really good. The introduction of newer talent, giving younger talent a chance to shine. That kind of comes and goes, but that has been a refreshing. You're hearing backstage that they're much more lenient with people getting time off, and prioritizing a little more family and balance of, instead of just on the road 300 days a year, which I think is a positive. I know that doesn't really affect us fans, and we're just like, hey, give me the best show ever. Give me the best. I want the best. We have to understand there's a human element to it, and it does elongate careers and everything else. So there is that. But I don't know. I'll stop there and get to this week in WWE. Hell of a long intro that really had nothing to do with specifically this week, other than the massive announcement of WrestleMania 43 being in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that absolutely nobody's looking forward to unless you're actually living in Riyadh. Nobody is going to go to Riyadh. I mean, sure, you'll have still a small portion of the hardcore audience from the UK. Maybe, there'll be a group of people from the United States going to this venue with 93,000 people. But I have to say, as much as I don't like a lot of the overseas crowds, simply because, I've already gone over it, but this, to me, I would take a Lyon, France, and nothing against French people at all. Hey, I'm actually 40% French, okay? I did one of those, not 23andMe, but Ancestry, where you spit in a little tube and send it back. Yeah. But I'd rather have it in one of those countries that I complain about only because I simply don't understand the chants and I only understand English. But I would have it anywhere. I would have it anywhere other than Riyadh, simply because Riyadh when you just say Riyadh, there's an instant reaction of like groaning from most wrestling fans. We're just like, ugh. Like we grin and bear it. And we get through a greatest Royal Rumble. We get through all these stupid PLEs, the crown jewels, and we're all like, oh, okay, good. No, we don't. Well, at least we don't have to go back to Saudi for a little while. There's just something about it that just is always. It's just never exciting. Fans just don't want to see it. They don't want Riyadh. Even like collectively, it's not just North America. Not just the United States. I think, and again, let me know in the emails if you guys want to email me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. But I would think I speak for the majority of fans when I say, no matter where you're from, UK, Australia, wherever, anywhere in Europe, we don't want it in Riyadh. Of course, WWE doesn't give a damn. They're going to do what they need to do to maximize as much money as they can, and they're going to make a truckload of cash at this event, probably in upwards of $150 million between what Riyadh's giving them, between ticket sale or gate, the merch, everything else. I mean, it's crazy. So let's move on. Let's move on to SmackDown. And again, if you want a full SmackDown review, specifically SmackDown, you can head on over to our SmackDown review done by Amanda from the UK, who did a nice job this week, as always. So, all right, let's get to it. Randy Orton was shown backstage, along with Drew, Tiffany, and Jade, and Vic Joseph and Booker T were on commentary for the night, and footage was then shown of Brock Lesnar attacking John Cena at the conclusion of Sami Zayn's match with him last week. And Lesnar comes out, and before he could speak, because WWE doesn't trust him to, R-Truth comes out, and Brock looked unimpressed by his performance of What's Up, and Truth welcomed Lesnar back. He said if he used to be afraid of him, but not anymore, and Lesnar said he had no idea who he was, and asked how old he was and what his name is. Truth explained that he couldn't stand for the disrespect Lesnar had showed to John Cena, and Lesnar said he was only there for one reason, and that's for John Cena, and demanded to know if Truth knew where he was. And Truth said he didn't know. They had an aside about whether or not Truth was Cena's brother, and Truth called himself Ron Cena, and Lesnar asked if they had different mothers. And they tried it a little. They gave an attempt here at humor. It wasn't very good. It was probably one of those deals where they put it on paper, discussed it in a boardroom or a Zoom meeting, and they're like, yeah, that'd probably come out well. And, it happens. And unfortunately was not executed well. It did not meet the expectations of probably how funny they thought it would be. It didn't work. And he ends up F5ing R-Truth, and he ripped his pants, which was kind of funny. And he pointed that to the cameraman, and backstage, Sami Zayn was talking to someone off camera about his U.S. title open challenge, and it was Rey Fenix. So, again, Brock Lesnar being there, it's like he just is fulfilling his contractual obligation. This is just Brock Lesnar not having to cut promos. There was nothing prepared here for Brock other than just trying to make this a humorous segment, in which it wasn't. Unfortunately, it didn't work. They try to get some heat on Brock by having him F5 a beloved R-Truth, although the problem is R-Truth, or Ron Killings, has been neutered, and WWE has taken away what we loved about him when they brought him back by cutting his hair and taking the fun attitude and kind of quirkiness about him out. So it's like, oh, it's Ron Killings against the world. All right. And they try to bring some of the old Ron Killings or R-Truth back here in SmackDown, but it was just a weird segment that didn't work for really any reason. There was this actually didn't do anything for anyone other than check a box for Brock Lesnar to say, "Yep, okay, I fulfilled my my obligation to be in Norfolk, Virginia at the Scope. All right, check. Okay, I'll see you guys at WrestlePalooza." That's it. This is the way the Brock Lesnar schedule is going to go. Okay, it's going to be Brock Lesnar showing up, attacking somebody, and then he goes away up until like the last week or two of a PLE, and he'll be back to not cut a promo and also not explain why the hell he did what he did, and that's it. I love Brock Lesnar as in terms of being a performer. I have nothing but respect for him. Put all the allegation garbage aside. I'm talking about purely the performer, the wrestler, Brock Lesnar. And this didn't really do anything. It wasn't funny, as I said. It didn't help R-Truth, didn't help Brock Lesnar. It did nothing to further John Cena and Brock Lesnar for WrestlePalooza, meaning, again, giving us a goddamn reason why Brock Lesnar attacked John Cena. You can't even do that. There's just an unbelievable, just some kind of sickness that goes on when they bring Brock back. They're like, they just don't even bother to tell us why he does what he does. And people, even the fans, have become conditioned to just even defend WWE by saying, well, that's just Brock. Brock does what Brock wants to do. No. Okay, you've been poisoned. Your brain has been poisoned to just accept that. I do not accept that, because that is lazy booking. And you can't tell me that that's a better story than if there was an actual reason. And presumably that's why Brock was there. But Brock never cuts great promos, and we all know that. He never does, and never has, and never will at this point. And who cares? He doesn't need to. But I refuse to accept, oh, that's Brock. Brock does what Brock wants to do. I don't accept that crap. I do not accept that. I need the basics, because they're all about storytelling, and yet they refuse to give us even the most elementary 101 element of storytelling, which is, why do these things happen? So, no, I will not accept it, and I will continue to complain about it because it's unacceptable. All right, Rey Fenix and Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. This was fun. I mean, here we go. So we get off kind of the Brock Lesnar bandwagon and the lack of WWE storytelling into a really fun match that went almost 16 minutes, with Sami Zayn beating Rey Fenix to retain the United States Championship, which was a lot of fun. He ends up getting the haluva kick, a nice finish here. And after the match, we had Sami soaking up the ovation. And a clip was shown from earlier today where a match between Julia and B-Fab was made. Julia and Kiana James mocked Michin, which set off B-Fab, and she talked her way into a match with Julia. And in the arena, Julia made her entrance with Kiana James. Okay, so again, before I get to that part, I do want to give credit where credit's due with Rey Fenix and Sami Zayn. All right, as I said, a lot of fun. The complete polar opposite of what we saw with R-Truth and Brock Lesnar just minutes before. I mean, these two just worked insanely well together. Kind of a lucha style as expected, but Sami can work any style, and these two put on. I mean, this could have gone 30 minutes, and it went 16, which was great. And got the crowd back into it. So, as far as the women here, I mean, B-Fab, Julia, Kiana James, Michin, I got to be honest. I mean, you're talking about the bottom of the women's division here, and that's not just respecting them, obviously, on a personal level, but you cannot tell me that Julia, B-Fab, Juliana, or Kiana James, or Michin, for that matter, my God, get anyone excited at all. They don't. And why is that? Well, because the fans don't know who they are. And every time they see them, they're bored by them. That's just a fact. B-Fab is, I mean, largely silent, and has been largely silent in her career. You know, she was associated with, you know, Flop Dollar for a little while. She never really got her pacing in the women's division. We thought at one point, she's probably going to be fired with them, and she never was. She somehow has squeaked through. And Juliana, again, doesn't really get many people excited. She just doesn't. I mean, but I'm also, while I complain about the fact that they don't know seemingly what to do with these women, they just group them together. This is also the growing pains of building new stars, where we don't know who they are yet. They're kind of all blended together in this pot that they're stirring around in. I don't have any feeling positive or negative towards any of these women, and that's the worst possible way to feel about any wrestler, man or woman. So, I mean, I just don't know what to say about it. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but Rey Mysterio was shown arriving in the arena, and a video package aired of the Wyatt Six speaking about the Street Profits. That was good. Rowan said he was sad to see Tez and Dawkins this way, but it's common for people to not get what they have, see what they have until it's gone. And they asked where the profits go from here. and said they planted seeds, but now they've grown horns. Whatever. B-Fab completed her entrance in the arena. So, more mumbo-jumbo from the Wyatt Six that continue to at least have some... I've been complaining they don't have an identity outside of, the Bray Wyatt crutch. But this doesn't help when it's mumbo-jumbo. But I'd take this over nothing. So there is that. So let's continue here. We have... It's before the match. Oh, I see. Okay, I forgot about this. So before the match, Juliana and Kiana James assaulted B-Fab, tossed her into the barricade at ringside, and James stomped on B-Fab, and Julia delivered a running knee to the face. And she then bent B-Fab's arms behind her back. Meechin interrupted things, and she attacked James with a kendo stick and ran off Julia, and that's it. So, yeah. All right, let's get to a real women's match here. Sorry. That's just, I'm calling it like it is here. But Jade and Tiffany for the women's championship. The match went 11 minutes and 23 seconds, which, for a Jade Cargill match is about double what they've been normally giving her. But she works very well with Tiffany Stratton. They work well together because they're similarly built. And they're both young in the sense that they're still trying to find their own footing. Yes, Tiffany's the women's champion, but she's young. Jade still hasn't found her voice. Still don't know who she is after 2 years. Is trying to get behind the fans. The fans are trying to get behind her, but they're hesitant because we're not going to get behind somebody we don't know. But the match went 11 minutes 23 seconds. It ended in a double countout, but this was really good, I think. For what it was, for what my expectation is here. And they've worked well together before in the past. So the finish was Jade going for a spear. She ended up hitting the ring post. Tiffany went up and missed a moonsault. And then Jade followed up with a spear that sent both women into the barricade. And that's where the referee counted them both out. And after the match, Nia Jax appears, attacks both women. She sent Cargill into the ring steps and delivered an annihilator to Stratton in the ring. That did not look good. But backstage, Chelsea and Alba Fire spoke to Nick Aldis about a tag match. But before that, Nia Jax actually... I've become a fan of Nia Jax where I never ever thought that I would be. Now, I don't agree with pretty much anything she says outside of the ring, but inside the ring, she's got a presence now that's not so... kind of insecure. She always had this insecurity vibe about her. Like she doesn't know who she is. She's still kind of careful in this bubble. Now she's just like doing things. She's just doing things and not overthinking. I know that's kind of digging into someone's psyche that it's impossible to do, but that's how I feel. And that's connecting me to her in a way that's like, all right, when she shows up, like I pay attention, not just because she's a bigger woman, but because it's like when someone comes into their own and starts to feel comfortable, you have this sort of like shift in how you feel about them. And when you see them, you pay more attention because you're not off put by their insecurity. Nia Jax has found that, and this isn't new. She's been in this zone for about a year or more now. So I like this attack here, despite her kind of terrible looking annihilator on Tiffany. Her attack on Jade is fun. This will likely be a triple threat. So, how about that for some positivity? All right. A video package aired that focused on Cena and Lesnar that was narrated by Joe Tessitore. It covers their starts in OVW, move to WWE, and Lesnar's first exit, and then Cena taking the torch as the face of the company after he left. And there'll be a part 2 next week. And then Drew McIntyre made his entrance. And let's see here. Oh, backstage, Carmelo Hayes and Sammy's told Sammy that he had next. Zayn told him okay, but he better not miss. And then Miz walked up and asked about which title he spoke to Aldis about, and he said the United States Championship. That's where an argument started where the Miz insisted he needed to be guided on his path, and that should have been the tag titles. Mello said he doesn't miss, and he'd prove it next week. So the tension continues to build with The Miz and Carmelo Hayes for the United States Championship, and them as a tag team that, I mean, we can all see it coming. Somebody's turning on somebody, and likely it's The Miz turning on Melo, but the little kind of cat and mouse game for a while is fun. Tag team division always needs help, so that's fine too. And there. So one thing before I get to Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, which was the main event, and only the third wrestling match of the entire night, may I add. Booker T on commentary is horrific, and I have forgotten how terrible he is. And I know some of you are, it's Book. Yeah. I've never, if you go back and if you listen to me for years, I've never been a fan of Booker on commentary. He'll occasionally come out with some one-liners that are decent or that are a little bit memorable or, add something to a situation. More often than not, Booker T is just kind of like a loose cannon that doesn't sound good on the mic. He doesn't have a good voice for radio, which does not help. He says things that are wacky and bizarre. He's just like, oh, look at that dog. What a monster. She's a monster. Like, not my flavor of commentary. I know he's doing his best. I'm not saying it's easy. He's just not my cup of tea on commentary. Never has been. And then he's got, again, like the raspy voice. I'm not a fan. There's a certain type of voice to be a commentator. Booker T ain't it. And look, I know he's got his own show. He does his own thing. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. Nothing against him. I just, when he's on commentary, I groan. I groan. Because he's, I think he takes away from situations more than anything. It's almost like he doesn't do any homework. He just kind of shows up. He just shows up and says like phrases. That's kind of the vibe I get from Book. Again, he knows more about the business than I do, but I can still give my opinion as a fan, objectively say, like, he just kind of, it's like he is a fan just showing up and trying to be a commentator, except he actually is a former wrestler. That's the vibe I get from Book. And I mean, that's just the way I feel about him. And when I hope he's not there for very long. I mean, I need Wade Barrett back promptly. So, all right. But we did get Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton here that went 17 minutes. And the match was good, as you'd expect. I mean, the match, these two just, dare I say legends, or one Hall of Famer in the making type of matchup here. Or you can make an argument Drew McIntyre's Hall of Fame. I would argue that. How about one legend and one Hall of Famer? Because you don't have to be a legend to get in the Hall of Fame. To me, Hall of Famer, you can be a legend, but that's like a separate higher tier in my mind. And I don't think Drew is a legend. I think Randy Orton is pretty damn close. So the match, as I said, went 17 minutes. The finish was Orton pulling McIntyre back in the ring with that draping DDT. He then set up for the punt, but the referee stopped him. McIntyre used this to shove Orton towards the ref and then deliver another Claymore for the victory. A nice setup, nice finish, clean finish for the victory. And after the match, Drew set up Orton on the announce table to do another Claymore. And then that's when our hero, our white knight in a tracksuit, I mean, he's just, he comes out and he makes a save and attacks McIntyre. He was delivering, knocking some punches into McIntyre, hit him with a really nice Cody cutter. And then he got on the mic and said the champion is back and he would see McIntyre at WrestlePalooza. That closed the show. So this is, seeing McIntyre finally get his shot here is good. It's long overdue, but I don't think the timing is right. If you're looking for a case for McIntyre to win, very unlikely. You could easily see Orton here turning on Cody, because we've been all waiting for that for God knows how long, of Orton actually turning on Cody, and you get a proper Orton and Cody Rhodes match. That is very possible. My predictions, by the way, will be coming this week. I am traveling, though, on Friday. So my predictions for WrestlePalooza will be coming to you earlier in the week. not on Friday, because as I said, I have an early flight on Friday, so it might come on Wednesday or Thursday. Well, it has to, Wednesday or Thursday, for your listening pleasure. That also means that I'll be out of the state. Okay. I will not be in my, near my home for a couple nights. So, that means also I will be, not able to report anything to you, for a day or two, but I'll be on X and I will, try to get something to you as quickly as I can, when I return. So I'll leave it at that. But all right. So, what do I think about Randy Orton and McIntyre? As I said, good match. Cody Rhodes is back. It is actually good to see him back because SmackDown needs a little consistent star power, because Brock Lesnar is going to be very hit and miss. And even when he's there, it's not always a hit, as we saw this week. John Cena is about to step away for good, just a few months away. So Cody Rhodes being the consistent champion there every week is something that the fans and the show kind of needs. Drew McIntyre is a great foil. Randy Orton is still somehow just implausibly at the top of his game. I'm saying that in 2025, which is just absolutely incredible. So hasn't missed a step. So you have those two guys. But right now, after Drew McIntyre, as I said, who's Orton or who's our Cody Rhodes going to face? And it likely is possibly Randy Orton. Unless they want to save that for, WrestleMania. There is that too. But, yeah. All right. Let's check on Monday Night Raw really quickly, because we normally skim over it since we've already done an entire show about it this past week. We had, that's right, the open of Raw with Jey Uso and LA Knight and the rest of it. We had AJ Styles and El Grande Americano, with AJ Styles beating El Grande in about 9 minutes with the Styles Clash. We had Lyra Valkyria take on Raquel Rodriguez with Roxanne Perez. Raquel beat Lyra in 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We had, AJ, or rather the tease of Jay's character potentially turning heelish. And I've given my take on this quite a bit over the mailbag and over the weeks here. I don't believe Jey Uso's turning heel. I don't think that's the payoff here, because they're moving too much merch still with Yeet. And if WWE is, God knows they love that dollar, they're not going to turn Jey heel. That would undercut their merch sales for the Yeet stuff. They're selling a lot of t-shirts, a lot of Yeet stuff. They're not going to touch that. This is, I think, just kind of teasing a heel turn, perhaps for just the sake of teasing a heel turn. I don't know if it's actually leading to something bigger. And if it is, it can't be Roman. It can't be Roman versus Jey. It can't be Jimmy versus Jey, or any combination in thereof. We've already discussed at length and ad nauseum why that is a bad idea. And it just can't happen again. No one would want it. That's the gist. And so what is this? Is it potentially Jey joining the Vision down the road? Maybe. But as I said, if WWE is insanely money-driven and hungry, they're not going to undercut it. So, all right. But let's get to AJ Styles, or AJ Lee, I should say. I did talk about that at length also on Monday, on Tuesday for the Raw review, rather. And I was kind of critical of AJ Lee here. I mean, she delivered a nice, fun return promo. It was a little awkward at times. And I wasn't a big fan of her bringing in, I went on a mental health journey. A journey. Everything's an effing journey today. It can't just be like, hey, this is what I did. Or it can't just be, hey, this is not a badge of honor. People wear their disabilities today like it's a badge of honor because it gives them sympathy and it gives them a victim status. And that's, I think, a big reason why people do. I'm not saying that's the motivations of AJ Lee, but I think without realizing it, she's kind of regurgitating that that cultural kind of rot in that, it's kind of like, oh, how many meds are you on? Oh, I'm on these meds. I've got these meds. I went to therapy last week. I'm in therapy consistently now for all of my disabilities. Like, and people wear it and share it like it's a badge of honor because it gives them some kind of validation that, what they're going through is valid and I'm heard and all this cultural crap. And I despise that when people abuse it. And it's not, a lot of people don't actually have disabilities. I think that they feel like the culture has told them they do. And therefore, any emotion that is undesirable as a human being, anything outside of just constantly being happy, it's some kind of medical diagnosis. And anyway, AJ Lee, I wish her nothing but the best. Okay. I'm glad she didn't commit suicide. We all are. Suicide is a serious problem. We know that. And I think a lot of that is because of the side effects of the meds. So kind of the irony there, but obviously if anybody's experiencing those kinds of thoughts, call someone. I'm not advocating for, there's no such thing as mental issues. People should ignore them. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that just as a wide, in painting a broad brush, I think there's a massive problem today where people just use their either real or imagined disabilities as some kind of crutch, some kind of club that you can beat somebody with, and some kind of way to paint yourself as a victim so that it actually inherently gives you more power over them. That is a massive problem today. On top of people being over-medicated, over-prescribed for disabilities they don't have. All right. Hell, I'm going to go on a rant here. But AJ Lee, there was a chant for therapy, which of course is a sad sign of the times. Again, I'm all for people making sure that they're healthy and well, but it's a lot of times not about yourself. A lot of times it's about helping other people, and you'll find that helping other people often helps you. It's not about look in me. It's self-love. You notice the explosion of self-love today. Okay. Self-love has also been, I think, a primary driver in people's sadness and depression, because when you're looking inside yourself, you're looking only to what your needs are, what can help you and satisfy you. And the world won't do that. So when you only are looking to satisfy yourself and learn how to love yourself, it's a self-love journey. God, that even saying that phrase makes me want to vomit. You'll find that the more you focus on yourself and make yourself kind of like the one you serve, it's a self-perpetuating deep, dark hole of sadness. And yet it's sold today as how you become happy. And then you go on meds because you're feeling sad, then focusing more on yourself in therapy, which is what therapy is. You focus more on what your thoughts are inside. It's this vicious circle of just darkness. I'm getting really deep into this, but can you tell I have other things that I think about and want to talk about? All right. So now that some of you are like, this dude doesn't even talk about wrestling anymore. Those of you that are still here, thank you. So we had this big whole, beginning here that's set up the inevitable tag team match, the mixed tag team match between Becky and Seth versus Punk and AJ Lee. That's going to take place at the WrestlePalooza event, which should be fun, admittedly. Rusev beats Penta in 8.5 minutes. We have Asuka beat Nikki Bella in 12.5 minutes. And then we had LA Knight lose to Bronson Reed in 13 minutes. And that was, needed. I think that was needed for Bronson Reed. It's been nice without Paul Heyman here. As good as Paul Heyman is, it's nice to see what these men can do without the massive crutch of Paul Heyman. And they need this. This is how you find your way. You throw yourself in the deep end and see if you can swim. And so far, I think they have. So, yeah, good main event here. I enjoyed this with Bronson Reed and LA Knight. That went 13 minutes. And that was that. So, a big week in WWE coming up with WrestlePalooza. We have, as I said, the preview and prediction show coming your way earlier than normal this week. So if you want your predictions in, send them to me as early as you can this week. I'm going to be doing the preview and prediction show likely Wednesday. That's probably when I'm going to do it, along with the mailbag. Okay? So if you want to send in your questions to me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. Do that early this week because I'll be giving my preview and predictions earlier than usual, and I'm going to do a combined episode. So keep that in mind, everybody, as we roll into this week in WWE. So thank you so much, everybody. Again, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast if you want to go ad-free. It's always a great place to go if you hate all the ads you've heard throughout this show. Great solution. So everybody, thanks so much. I'll be talking to you in just a couple days. Have a great one. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.